it has been abundantly clear to me about one thing, and that is, what do I believe about Matt House? There have been a lot of you that have sent in questions on Twitter. You've DM'd us. You've sent us comments on Facebook, comments into the show. And mainly the question is, do I think Matt House is going to be fired? And if so, when will he be fired? Listen, I don't know if, when that's going to happen. If it's going to happen. I have not heard of that officially happening anytime soon. Now, if there is a situation where Florida comes into Death Valley and blows this defense out of the water, and you can't make another stop in back-to-back weeks, Scott Woodward's not going to play around. He will do what he thinks needs to be done, but he did fire Orgeron and kept him around for the whole season. I don't think it's going to come to that, because I think you're going to win the last 3 games of your regular season. But things got to change very quickly, right? Like, I know that Matt House and his defense did help you win a couple of games last year, and it doesn't go past me to see that. The problem is in the last 5 big marquee games that we've played at LSU, the defense has been horrendous. Okay? Now, you've had good defensive performances also that have won you games, like Arkansas. You've had good defensive performances that have won you games like Auburn. But the difference between the offense and the defense is that I've seen Jaden Daniels get better, clearly. I've seen this offensive line. I've seen this running game. I've seen the receivers all have progression. And they're the number 1 offense in the country. There's no excuses to not have any turnovers, any stops in any of these big games. You went up against Georgia last year. You got blown out. You could have gotten to 10 wins in the regular season a year ago. You got run all over. And you know, there are people that, you know, that I'm close to, and I think you could put 2 and 2 together, that it seems like Matt House ran off Jamar Cain. But that was still a high-profile game in the sense of, I know that A&M had a losing record, but, man, that's when you got to win to get to 10 regular season wins. And God forbid if you do, and you do find a way to upset Georgia, no telling what could have happened. No telling. But that didn't. It didn't. When you give up 50 to Florida, 40-plus to Florida State, 55 to Ole Miss, 42 to Alabama, almost 40 to Missouri, at some point 31 against a really bad Arkansas team. There's just got to come a point with how many more of these games can we have, and performances like what happened against Alabama, okay? How many more of those can you allow in these high-profile games? LSU is always supposed to beat the Arkansas, the Mississippi States, and even the Ole Misses of the world, even though Ole Miss is likely going to have 10 wins in the regular season again under Lane Kiffin. He'd be the only coach to have 10 wins in the regular season at Ole Miss's history. There's no excuse with the personnel and recruiting and even players in the portal that you get. You have any real business losing Ole Miss. None. Like zero, zilch, nada. The truth is the only 2 games that you're kind of allowed to lose here, and it's not acceptable, and I get this. You want to finally get over that hump of being in there with the Alabama and the Georgia. You have the ability to do that. I don't know if House can remedy this quickly enough to be where fans would back him in any situations. You know, if Matt House is here another year, which I don't if it continues, I don't think that that's going to happen. I just think you're going to have to move on if it can't be fixed. And I've seen I saw an argument in reference to this. Okay. Like I saw an argument in reference to it's not the defensive coaching staff's problems necessarily. The fuck it ain't. Like, yeah, it is. It's everybody on the defense's fault. And if you are on this team and you play on this defense and you like Matt House and you like your position coach, you like the guys that you're battling with every Saturday, well, prove it to me. Prove it to me. I'm sorry, Army and Auburn are not going to be the games against very, very bad offenses that that you can use as a picture in the window, so to speak, of, hey, well, look at how great this was. You can't, or how great this is. You can't do that. When things don't change schematically, like, guys, it should not be to a point where, like I feel like more people are calling for Matt House's job. I mean, or less people are calling for Matt House's job. Now, a lot of people are, than what we allow for Bo Pelini. And guys, it might be worse. Like, it might be worse. Now, Bo didn't get fired until after the end of the year, even though a lot of people knew he was already fired and they told him he wasn't coming back in the middle of the year. Different time, different regime, different AD. And I mean, not different AD, different coaching staff, different time, but same AD. I fielded this question a lot this week. I thought it was warranted to answer it. I don't like getting into the game. Like, people say, who's going to be the next DC? Guys, we're not even remotely close to that yet. I'm not going to start feeling that question. I'm not. The guy needs to be fired first. Like, he needs to move on back to the NFL first before we start doing that, unless LSU is going to make a permanent replacement and they know really quickly. But I have not heard that. And I don't think that they need to do that. I think BK does need to take his time, because by the time, the early signing period is over and done with, you can fire House after that. You can let him go after that. He might not be gone until after the Super Bowl if NFL jobs, if the NFL is, obviously still going into the Super Bowl into February. It could be February.